Hi, everyone. I am Elizabeth Ringas, the American Coaster Enthusiast Communications Director, and I'm excited to be coming sadly, from my house because we can't be at the parks yet, but we're hoping that we'll start getting there soon, maybe even during World Roller Coaster Appreciation Month. Some of you will get to go to a park. I actually went and played miniature golf last week, and that felt great to get back out to a family entertainment center and support them, as well as go-karts and a scrambler. I have never been so excited about a scrambler in my life, but that felt really good. So I am here coming to you for World Roller Coaster Appreciation Month with two of Vekoma's team members, and I am excited to have them with us. I have Ricardo Etges, who is the Global Sales Manager, and I have Benjamin Bloementhaal, the Senior Concept Engineer, to share a little bit with you about what's been going on. Now, if you remember back in November, during the IAPA Expo, I spoke with both of them to give you a little insight about what's been going on with Vekoma through the years. Because here in America, when we hear Vekoma, we think about suspended looping coasters and we think about boomerangs of the 90s. But Vekoma is undergoing a renaissance that you mentioned during our interview during November. So since it's been about 7 months, I thought it'd be a great chance for us to catch up and hear what's been going on since then. So will you catch us up a little bit how that renaissance plan has evolved in the last 7 months or so since IAPA?
Sure. So first of all, thanks for having us here, Elizabeth. It's good to talk to you again. And I think a lot of things happened since November last year, right? Like we've been facing a tremendous challenging moment for all of us, right? For suppliers, for consultants, for the parks, for the theme park fans, for the enthusiasts. Everyone has been struggling with the pandemic situation. But we also have good news since November last year. So first of all, I think one of the things that we've been working on is our new office in the US. So we're opening an office in Orlando later this year. This is also part of the Vekoma's Renaissance in the US that you were talking about, that we discussed already. And I think that will help us to be able to raise awareness of this whole new generation of Vekoma coasters that started, I would say, 10 years ago. But our focus had been mostly on Asia and Europe back then. And that's why they're not very, like coaster fans in the US are not still very familiar with the new generation of Vekoma coasters. But we're working hard to change that. We're working hard to raise awareness, but also to have more of these new generation of coasters up and running in the States very soon. Although we cannot talk about a lot of new projects, as I said, it's always a challenge for us because we can only announce new coasters when the parks have announced them. But we're currently working on some really interesting projects in the US.
That is great. I love to hear that we'll be getting some new variety. You know, I always think about really how cutting edge Vekoma was for what it brought and moved the coaster industry forward. So I'm always excited to see what's coming. And you have been doing some very exciting projects overseas. What's your most exciting project you're working on for 2020? Anywhere in the world?
So talking about our 2020 project, there's actually quite a few. 2020 is a pretty big year for us, even though that, like Ricardo said, everyone has been experiencing this whole situation with the global pandemic, and we're seeing some of these ride openings being pushed back a little bit. It's still a very big year of us, and we're expecting to open a lot of rides. And talking about Europe, we are very excited to open 2 new coasters, custom designs at Tripsdrill Park in Germany. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, and you might have talked about the designs a little bit during IAPA already, but we have now successfully completed the whole commissioning phase and the rides have been handed over to parks. So we are right there before opening these things, and they've been running great. They've been running like water through a pipe, as we would say. So we are very excited for our next generation suspended thrill coaster, as we call it. which is a spiritual successor, I would say, to not just the suspended looping coaster, which was a big success for us years ago, but obviously outdated, but also the suspended family coaster, which has been a recent success for us in the past. So it's more like combining those two and creating a modern new version of our vision of a suspended coaster. And then next to that project, there are a couple of projects in Asia that we're very excited about as well. We've recently opened a big launch coaster that sadly was postponed for a couple of years, but right now people are enjoying their first ride on the Wrath of Zeus in Vin Wonders Park in Vietnam, which is a very exciting big thrill launch coaster that we were happy to open this year. And then, as you may know, we're also working on a couple of more launch coasters, all custom designs in China. These are still stuck at this point in the commissioning or installation phase. Like I said, we're all suffering from this pandemic, but we're excited to open those this year as well.
I bet. I'm sure that it's just been so frustrating to try to move through this pandemic, and knowing that you wanted to have when the park was ready to open, you knew you wanted to have the ride, but I'm sure that it's still working virtually. There's still going to be things that you just can't get it there. I'm impressed that you were able to get these ready, because most of this work's been completed and wrapped up as the pandemic was going on. How did y'all alter your strategies to be able to still move forward, assuming you couldn't be there in person because travel was so limited?
Right. So we were lucky enough that we could still travel into Germany. We have two large projects going on, opening 2020 or so in Germany. We were still able to get to those sites, so we were able to continue work with the park on both installation and commissioning of these rides. So those are pretty much on their original schedule. For China and in Poland, we're building on two new coasters for this year as well. Things have slowed down a little bit, but we were able to support whichever site was staying open through video conference, much like we are talking right now as well, trying to have our supervisors from back home guide people through the process that at least the parts they could work on themselves on site. So it's a different way of working, but we're finding our ways.
This has certainly been a time of creativity to learn new ways to do our jobs, hasn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Totally.
So what is it about these new coasters, particularly these custom launch coasters that are coming out for 2020? What is it that really will remember and stand out? What features are they? Wow, that was such a great thrill, or that's a great element. What are we going to remember about these?
So I would say regarding the launch coasters, for instance, the one in Vietnam that opened right now, for that particular design, which actually stems all the way from early 2014, that's when we first made that design, and that's how long it has been waiting to be experienced by people. One of the keys to that design was combining different thrills from rides that our client had experienced around the world, which was combining a launch coaster and a dive-like experience, much like a suspend dropped vertical dive coaster. So that's the key to, if you're familiar with the design, to that specific top hat element right down the end of the first launch. And that drives that specific shape of the train shooting up straight out of the launch and then going into a beyond vertical stall before you actually enter the rest of the gravity area. So that was a first for us to do. It was very, very exciting to work on back then, and it's exciting to see the ride finally open now. And for the other launch coasters, it was very exciting to work alongside park designers to have these designs integrated in their theming elements and all the tunneling that has been going on with both the models that will go into the Shanghai area. We've been calling them as a development name or a project name, the Top Gun model and the Shockwave model, and both of these rides, they have extensive tunneling, underground features, and a twisted ride layout. So for those particular ones, it was very excited to integrate all of that into the whole picture that the park had for this ride, the whole theming in the area.
I bet. And is that using a lot of terrain to be able to make that happen? Or is it just a more flat area that you've integrated it into?
Yeah, I would say it's more of like an artificial terrain coaster sections on those. So the terrain was flat when we got there, but the whole design had those artificial terrain interactions integrated in it, and the park's doing an amazing job to make it look natural and have all these trenches in there.
That's exciting. I mean, adding that terrain element to a coaster really takes it to the next level of the experience, I feel like. So important focus to be able to have that. I love that it wasn't there and y'all made it happen. The power of engineering.
Exactly.
That's wonderful. So looking at, knowing that you can't talk a lot about what's coming for the US yet, what are you seeing different in the European and Asian markets to the US of what people are interested in? What is there any difference in what intrigues them?
There are not a lot of differences, I would say. It really depends on what the park is interested in. So for existing parks, they look at their own lineup of coasters and they see what they lack of, the type of ride experience they lack of. We've been seeing an increasing trend for more like family and family thrill coasters recently in different parts of the world, like Europe and the States as well. Because I think parks are realizing also that they need to cater more to that specific demographics. But it really depends on the park. We do see a slight difference from China, for example. The Chinese market is not that thrill oriented. So we usually focus more on this family thrill coasters in China, but that same trend we're seeing more and more in the States and in Europe.
Interesting. And it is, but you're right with that's what I see as a park goer. I noticed that family suspended coaster fills such an important niche for the park goer. It's that rite of passage to be able to move from a true kiddie coaster before entering the more aggressive thrill rides.
That's actually a perfect. That's actually sorry, Benjamin. That's actually a perfect example of a family thrill coaster, a very successful family thrill coaster, because the suspended family coaster that we have at Dollywood, it caters to the younger generation, but thrill seekers ride that coaster and they feel very excited about it too. So it's very broad. So the objective is always to kind of having like this broad demographics for these coasters. And I think that one specifically is a very successful product in our portfolio. We have many installations in the world. We're not only looking at standard designs, but we're also starting to look at more custom design layouts of that particular ride. And I think we'll see more and more of that in the next few years.
That's great. We want to keep those young enthusiasts finding their energy and love of roller coasters. But exactly. And what I love about that is it still gives the parent a great experience to ride along with their child, to experience those thrills that it's not, okay, I'm going to ride this again with my child. You can actually look forward to riding them.
Exactly. And that's what we've noticed for these models, but also for the smaller coasters, even the family boomerangs that we've done. We've elevated that junior style vehicle track layout that we've used in the past to that family thrill kind of level. We're really taking it up one notch, but not too far. So you landed exactly in that sweet spot where the whole demographic enjoys the coaster. And to add to that, we've been actually widening or broadening our portfolio while we are working our way through this pandemic as well, because we've noticed the success at exactly that niche. And yeah, you'll be seeing some cool new concepts appear in the near future that ride that wave of success of the suspended family coaster.
Love hearing that you made good use of your pandemic time. I've heard that from a few other people, that it was a time that they were able to step back and look at some things that had been pushed to the side because there wasn't time. A lot of people have been telling me it's been truly a time of creativity, that they could focus more. So
totally.
We'll definitely be reaping some benefits.
Totally, and I think that that exactly happened to us. Like we had this additional time, I would say, to look at our portfolio, to have some brainstorming sessions, to discuss what we can come up with, and to really be more creative when it comes to new types of products. So I think, of course, we're not only looking at family thrill coasters, we're also looking at thrill coasters as well, new types of vehicles, new types of tricks, and new types of ride experiences. But as Benjamin said, that is a special niche that we're paying attention to at this moment.
Yes, it's an important one and a very fun one. Seeing those smiling faces coming off is something I love, hearing a child and their excitement, and it's almost like there's nothing like it.
Exactly.
Now,
and we've been having some great feedback from our clients, from the theme park operators about these models. So that is another there's another push for us to keep moving into that direction as well.
Love it. And will we see you looking at options for even lowering the height requirement more, integrating more younger children in it? Is that something you have looked into?
So that's something we'll always work on. We're always trying to learn and improve on even the vehicles that you've seen around for many years from Vekoma. For instance, our family coaster train, or junior coaster train as it was previously called, has been around for a couple of decades. And to the untrained eye, it's the same vehicle, but it has gone through several iterations, improving ergonomics and containment, and obviously meeting the latest standards as they change. But this is something that we will always try, especially in the family and family thrill coaster range, try to have that vehicle cover, for instance, as you call it, that whole range of riders, so containment in a sense, as wide as possible. And then we can do different kinds of designs that either focus on, like my first coaster experience, very benign thrills for the younger ones, or we can still use the same vehicle and step it one step up into family thrill or something like that. So we're using the same vehicle, same interface, but we're playing with the dynamics of the rides, and that usually drives the height requirement that we would advise to a client.
Very good. Now, during IAAPA, we talked about the U.S. market a little bit and what you were hoping to achieve. Is there anything that's originated in the last 7 months or that transpired during IAAPA that you can tell us more about in the U.S.? I know your answer might be no, but I have to ask.
Yeah, my answer is actually, unfortunately, no. Would love to talk about more about this new project, but unfortunately we can't. But what I can tell you is, yeah, our strategy, I would say, is moving forward nicely in the US, in spite of the whole pandemic situation. Because we don't want, it's not only about short-term presence, it's also about long-term presence in the market. So we know that this is a step-by-step process. We're working on a couple of initial projects, but we truly hope to have more of this new generation of coasters in the US market. So, and there are a lot of them. There are a lot of them, I would say. So we have, from, as I said, from the family coasters, the sit down, the suspended, to the thrill coasters, the lounge coasters, looping coasters. We have a new version of the flying coaster as well. So we have a lot to offer to US clients. So I think it's more about, it's a step-by-step process. And we know that the industry has been highly affected by the pandemic. It might take a couple of years for a couple of theme parks to recover, but we're really thinking long term for that.
You mentioned it, that I know that some parks have pulled out of contracts. Some smaller parks I know changed their plans. Even for 2020, I know some that changed their plans of what contracts they had. Are you seeing any effect yet of change of plans, change of budgets, or scratching projects altogether that were planned? Because I know some of your projects are 3 or more years out. has that effect started yet? Because we all know it's inevitable.
Definitely, yeah. A lot of projects have been postponed. Some of the projects have been put on hold. But we've been trying to work hand in hand with our clients to find possible solutions, right? So I think it's all about the relationship, the partnership that we have with our clients to find a middle ground. Some of the projects, as Benjamin said, some of the rides expected to open this year are opening this year, fortunately. Some of the rides expected to open this year will open next year, probably. So we've been seeing some shifts in the schedule of the projects, but I would say most of them are moving forward in spite of the pandemic.
That's wonderful, because when we're ready to go back to the parks, we are certainly going to need that element of fun back in our lives that is not in the four walls of our house.
And I think people realized that during the pandemic, right? That this family outdoor experiences are like there's nothing better than that, you know, like there's nothing you can do at home that will have the same impact on a family as a visit to a theme park. So
not at all, but we have definitely seen the families online that attempted to recreate it at home, haven't we?
Exactly.
I've been amazed at what people did. Yes.
As you said, it's all about creativity, right? People have been creative at home. People have been creative at their own companies. So it's all about creativity doing this.
It has. It's brought something out in us that we all probably didn't even know we had in us.
Exactly.
I know. What fun and strange and stressful times it has all been. But it sounds like some wonderful things have continued to evolve for both of you and the Vekoma company, and that we can all reap in the years to come to make those special memories in the parks. Because like you said, we do. I think coaster enthusiasts have truly realized how much they really do need coasters in their life.
Totally.
Yes. Well, I really appreciate y'all taking time to share and really update the coaster enthusiast community about what's been happening for you during the pandemic and 2020 in general. I will say Wrath of Zeus looks amazing. I wish I could hop on a plane to head to Vietnam to ride it. The POV is so much fun to watch. I've watched it a few times. So definitely, it sounds like there'll be some bucket list rides that people need to get over to Europe for. It's a good excuse to find yourself overseas in the next couple of years before we can start reaping some fun in the States of what y'all will be starting to create here. Well, thank you to both of you. Thank you from, I'm sure, all the ACE members and other coaster enthusiasts that are watching this. And I look forward to, we hope that we'll get to catch up with you at IAAPA in person in November.
Sure. No, we truly appreciate the invitation, Elizabeth. And hopefully we'll be able to share more information about these new projects in the coming months. That's the idea. As soon as we are able to, we'll be able to share those, and we hope to see you in November.
Yes, wonderful. I'm sure you'll be excited to get settled in your Orlando offices. Very convenient for access to all the IAAPA festivities.
Exactly.
Stay in town. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Benjamin and Ricardo. I enjoyed this chance to talk to you. I hope you have a great week.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
You too. Thank you, Elizabeth.